Hello, welcome to my kind of video because this is my kind of patch. Kind of out of nowhere as well. I mean, I'm going to bring this up. Let's have a look. So this is season 5, patch number 5. The last patch we got, some actual changes to in-game content, barring an event, of course, was on July 2nd. So it's been 2.5 months since a patch. And I'm not going to say it was like worth the wait, although that is a very trivial way to view a patch. I will say, this is pretty exciting stuff. What's in this patch? Because it's kind of out of the blue, the nature and the substance of the changes. Not a massive list of insane additions or just balance changes, but balance changes are something this patch is dipping its toes into a little bit. Which you would know actually from the title of this video. So let's get into it, and then I'll sort of give my thoughts along the way or afterwards. Hello miners, we're preparing for fun events and included a number of bug fixes and weapon tweaks. And I just want to say this right now, if we can get more of this kind of thing on a even semi-regular basis, I'm going to make a bit of a weird plea in the video that comes out later today, which is the next Overclock showcase, about sort of the kind of deep rock updates I'd like to see. That can kind of be ignored, but if we could somehow get a patch like this every, I don't know, 1 to 2 months, somehow, that'd be awesome. You know, a patch that just dips its toes a little bit into making substantial changes, possibly even noticeable, even if small in number, balance changes, because that's exactly what this is. And I think there are many more changes of this ilk that could be made. So I find it very exciting, more than anything. It's not really, I don't want to use it as a vessel for me to make demands. I just want to say this is the kind of thing that I think people like. This is certainly something that I like, and to see more of it would be really cool and really appreciated by everyone, I think, who is still clinging on to Deep Rock in the hopeful anticipation of Rogue Core. So anyway, let's get into the patch itself. Patch notes: fixed gunner shield being able to mess with rift spawning and ruin the encounter. This is actually pretty important because I never actually experienced this myself, so I don't know if it was PC exclusive, but there was an issue going on with the Core Stone event where gunners could cheese it somehow with their shields. Basically, killing the Core Stone instantly, but I don't know how a shield would do that. So I haven't actually seen any footage of it, but I know that it was a fairly game-breaking issue when it came to the Core Stone event. It was really trivializing it, so it's good that they've gotten to that. That is actually something that they said was on their to-do list, I'm pretty sure, somewhere. Fixed Boltshark's T5 magnetic shaft upgrade only affecting direct damage. Now this is also very good, genuine. So I don't know if you would call this weapon balancing. I think it is. I mean, I think the branch term they've used above is weapon tweaks, which I think is very accurate because this isn't exactly balancing. The next point actually is, but what it is a buff via a bug fix. So magnetic shaft. Actually, I really should have Carl open for these videos. Also, it's super zoomed in. Why? So that's so I can collect overclock icons. Anyway, so this is obviously a scout secondary. So if I can sort of paint the picture here. So the Boltshark has a built-in damage, direct damage and area damage. The area damage is not dealt in an area itself. It doesn't actually have a radius. It's just area type damage that's dealt to the enemy as well. Therefore, damage that is dealt on direct hit but doesn't benefit from weak point. So it's just extra damage, but it doesn't get certain bonuses. Magnetic shafts, and even here, because this is basically the data mined description of magnetic shaft, not the exact description given in game. It literally says that it's supposed to add 25% direct and area damage to electrocuted enemies. Which it does, but only for the direct damage, is what this patch implies. But now it also affects the area damage. So let's say let's take a warden. I guess it's an enemy where you could be hitting its body pretty normally. So the overall damage to if you hit a warden's body would be 165 damage. If the enemy was electrocuted and you had magnetic shaft equipped, previously that would have been, if you'll give me a moment, 105 times by 1.25, which is the number I just got, plus 60, 191 damage. Now, what it actually is, and I'm just going to add the two together. So 165, not 1065, 165 times by 1.25. It's now 206. So it's not a huge difference, but it is going to make a difference, especially when it comes to things like Trifork Volley, which also doesn't decrease the area damage. So that's actually going to be a significant thing there. So people should definitely be looking out for that. And like I said, it's not the only change of this ilk in this patch. They also fixed the oh sorry, that's one I just read. They significantly increased the fear chance of the tier 5 Banshee module upgrade on the Boltshark, which I think is interesting. Because I think that's fair. I don't think Banshee module was actually weak, but there was clearly a discrepancy when it came to the Boltshark's tier 5s. Not that Magnetic Shaft was never used, it actually was, especially with Trifork Volley, mainly with Trifork Volley, but I think that potent special bolts won out in almost every situation, which I think makes perfect sense. And that's because Boltshark builds tend to be very focused around special bolts. And even when they're not, like Trifork Volley or Bodkin points, or, a lot of them actually, being Firebolts and Cryobolts are all normal bolt technically, but you wouldn't want fear on them. So the fear chances are going to be pretty good to really justify it, and it used to be, actually. When the Boltshark first came out, and I believe this issue did persist for some time beyond just the experimental branch, actually into the launch of Season 2, the Banshee module was broken, like, beyond repair. Obviously, it wasn't, because they did repair it, but the degree to which it was broken was pretty insane. It could fear literally anything instantaneously, including detonators and oppressors, and I think even dreadnoughts. It could basically fear things instantaneously that normally can't be feared at all. I assume that this patch, this balance change, is designed to make it as good as it needs to be, but without breaking those barriers, because it was a kind of a weird thing. So that's nice. I think clearly a focus here, one of the focuses of this patch, as far as weapon balancing goes, is actually to improve the standing of the Boltshark's tier 5 mods that aren't potent special bolts, basically. And hopefully it will have worked. Anyway, getting on to the next stuff, which is probably the most important as far as the weapon balancing goes. It's really mainly the two things, the Boltshark and the Smart Rifle got some stuff. So they removed the lock-on speed penalty and extended the lock-on duration of the Neuro-Lasso overclock and changed it from unstable to balanced. And they also made it so the Neuro-Lasso slowdown effect stacks properly when taking the T4 aperture extension upgrade. So pretty significant changes to Neuro-Lasso. I'm hesitant to call it a rework, but at the same time, I feel like when we're experiencing a overclock category shift, I feel like it's automatically a rework. Even if the actual changes involved aren't quite to the extent of what you would call a rework, I think the fact that we're moving from unstable to balanced kind of makes it a rework objectively. So let's take a quick look at the Smart Rifle in isolation and what's really going on here. So this is obviously all focused on the Neuro-Lasso overclock, which is, I've always deemed to be the worst Smart Rifle overclock, and I'm not sure that's going to change. We'll see. The thing is about Neuro-Lasso, so what it does, it slows enemies by 10% for each lock, right? And slows multiply for each enemy. Yeah, each lock slows an enemy by 10%. But you actually, what happens is it takes a bit longer to lock on, so the lock-on speed is slightly slower. And also has a limited lock-on duration. So what they've done, they've removed the lock-on speed penalty, which is this part. Actually, we can't really see, can we? No, they haven't removed this. Yeah, they've removed the lock-on speed penalty, so now it actually gains locks at normal rate. And they also made it so that limited time that you have to hold locks on enemies has been extended. It hasn't been removed, which I think makes sense because that is kind of the crux of Neuro-Lasso. Even though it is a purely support-based overclock, I think it would still be noticeably powerful if you literally didn't have to lift the trigger at any point. But maybe I do think that was reasonable. I'm not sure. Anyway, so the second point for Neuro-Lasso made it so that it worked correctly with the tier 4 aperture extension, which is this one, which adds max number of lock-ons. So that is an indirect buff. It's another buff via a fix, because what it means is that now you will actually be able to slow down enemies more because you have more locks to grant. So that should be noticeable as well. And I've thrown out ideas before of the Smart Rifle is taking it, giving like a neurotoxin effect as like a suitable buff. Maybe that's a bit far. Maybe we really just need to cut to the heart of the issue, which is that the Smart Rifle kind of just needs a bit more ammo. And this is a very specific change, so if anyone from Ghost is listening, I want this to be potentially considered. This isn't a demand, this isn't me acting like my word is final or anything like that, but I think this will make sense once you hear me out. So if we were to add more ammo to the smart rifle, it would open up a lot of opportunity for the non-meta overclocks to actually take up arms, basically, and actually have a chance. So the meta overclocks are, of course, ECR and Executioner, and both of these entail ammo penalties. And what should be done if you were to increase the smart rifle's base ammo is that you would actually adjust Executioner and ECR's ammo penalty so that they actually remain at the same level they are now. Therefore, meaning that ECR and Executioner would overall have less ammo than pretty much all other builds, which would really give leeway and give way for other overclocks to rise and potentially become meta, especially Smart Trigger and Neuro-Lasso. And Seeker rounds, which I already really like. I think it'll be a valuable change. I think now that Neuro-Lasso has got these changes, it's probably all it really needs to become a decent overclock. Oh, pardon me, sorry. I went out for breakfast this morning, quite a big breakfast. It hasn't completely settled yet. Anyway, that's actually all of the weapon balancing, but it's still really cool and really surprising to see. It's the kind of nice little surprises that I welcome whenever they happen. It is definitely a signature of Ghost ships. Even if they are infrequent, they still, on occasion do just bring out a nice surprise. I think things like the November maintenance update was definitely a really nice surprise. The fact that they got the February update earlier was a nice surprise. Season 5 itself was filled with really nice surprises. Small Meteor was a nice surprise. This is another one. So I guess when I ask for these kind of patches every month or two, it would kind of become unsurprising, but I don't necessarily want it to be surprising. I kind of want the things that they do that are nice surprises to be a bit more regular. And I know that I probably do sound entitled sometimes, but I love this game and I want more from it. It's I don't think it's unnatural either. Anyway, let's continue. Made the Lock 1 armor breaking module overclock not showing up in the stats list in the equipment terminal, which is a weird thing. Not a big loss. Maybe you could have somehow improved armor breaking module, given how bad it is. Or not how bad it is, just how useless it is. It's armor break module and reatomizer for the core gun are really, really useless overclocks, and I would love to see them brought up a notch. Anyway, fixed missing footstep sounds and particles and glyphids. I suppose that's good. Fixed the rift crystal taking damage way before the health bar appeared on screen. How long before? Because I tend to damage it before the health bar appears, but that's only because it is actually open and damageable. It looks like it should be damageable, so I hope that's not going to change my approach to Corestone. Fixed sticky flames making Praetorian death gas unexplodable sometimes, which I actually have noticed. Literally in recording the last Overclock showcase for lighter tanks and the flamethrower, which obviously comes out today, I just realised. I actually experienced this issue, I think, although I didn't really mention it. Fixed Season 1 data cores not redeeming for Season 1 script. That's good. Fixed data rack challenges do not appear in Season 1 unless you completed the original industrial sabotage that is no longer available. Okay, that's kind of odd that was a problem, but at least it's fixed. Fixed shield link goes into negative numbers upon wearing out. What? I don't even know what that means. Fixed that destroy eggs can spawn as a secondary in dense biozone biome. Huh. So they actually don't want the destroy glyphid eggs secondary objective to be in the dense biozone. That's actually really weird. That's the only example of that is the only example of a biome blacklisted secondary objective. Obviously we have Dystrom, which is obviously only available in is a secondary objective that's only available in the on-site refining endpoint extraction mission types. So, but this has never happened before, I'm pretty sure. Fixed that Sludge Pump AG Mixture Tier 5 mods had no effect on puddles. I don't know how that works, but at least that's an indirect buff for AG Mixture, which I already thought was pretty good. Fixed Dreadnought pheromones, making it less likely for enemies to target the player rather than more likely. This is the kind of thing that I think means that these patches are actually a bit more reasonable to receive on a more frequent basis, because the fact that there are bugs like this in the game that have been unnoticed for so long is kind of crazy. Obviously the Dreadnought, the normal vanilla Dreadnought attack where it launches a egg sac that releases swarmers and also inflicts pheromones on players, is obviously meant to make the enemies target you. the fact that it was making you less aggroed is literally the opposite of the intended effect. And the fact that it's gone by this long without any kind of change or anyone noticing it is actually really crazy. So I think that is a good change because it was actually a bug, so it's more than just a change; it's a bug fix. The elevator tracking icon now disappears when it has landed. Why? I mean, I guess that makes sense. I think the tracking icons are really only for things that are coming from orbit, and once they land, it goes away. So I suppose that makes sense. So on the whole, I think this was actually a really lovely patch. I'm excited to actually interact with some of the changes that it made, because it actually made some balance changes that are worth checking out, especially in the case of Neuro-Lasso and magnetic shafts for the Boltshark. So I think that'll be it though. Like I said, it'll be really cool to see more patches like this in the future. Just on a very literal sense, it just would be nice. That's not a demand. That's not a hopefully that's not an entitled request of any kind. It's just a genuine expression of desire to see more stuff like this, an expression of the fact that stuff like this is really cool. This patch itself is really cool, and we appreciate it, which is why more would be awesome. Greed be damned. Anyway, as always, if you enjoyed this, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to stay on top of everything to do with Deep Rock and Roadcore, then also click that bell. Also, really, Oktoberfest should have been announced pretty much about now. In fact, I actually saw on Twitter they actually put out a video with the Oktoberfest hat in it, so really that should have happened like today. I mean, it should have actually been announced last week and should be starting this Thursday, but we'll see. It might be announced today, and then I'll have another video on my hands. Anyway, that's all for today. It's actually been a bit long for a patch video, but that's because there are actual changes that I could, get into on a more technical level and show off via carl.gg. So thanks for carl.gg for existing. You're a great website. And that'll be it. See you next time. Ooh.